I have been seeing and feeling things since I was 17 months old. My mother was raised to believe in the paranormal, and so was I. My first encounter happened when I was 17 months old. My great-grandfather had just passed away. I don't remember seeing him or talking to him, but I do remember the smell of his cologne. My mom told me this when I got older. She said that she just put me down for bed, and a few minutes later she heard me talking. Oh, she came back to check on me and I told her it was Papa. And that was that. I never saw him again until we moved into the house we are living in now. My second encounter happened a few months after my great-grandmother passed. This was when I was 12. When I was little, she had given me a jewelry box. I was little, and I had put the baby powder in it. Well, a few weeks after she had passed, I was vacuuming my room, and nothing was near that jewelry box, and it just fell off my drawer. It even fell off when I was in the living room watching TV with my dad. The last time it fell, I was at my nanny's, and my mom had the door shut, so no one was in there. When it fell, my mother got up and cleaned it out and put it in her room, and well, that was the last time it did anything. My great-grandmother was telling me to clean it. Now my papa was beautiful to me because I knew him for 11 years, and he was my everything. Unfortunately, I was 13 when he had passed away. That night in the hotel room by the hospital after he had passed, we were getting ready for bed. My mom was crawling in the bed with me when my step-grandmother said, "Shell, is that you standing there?" My mother replied, "No, Mama, I'm in the bed." Well, my grandmother told us what she saw. There was an angle where my mother had stood. My mother couldn't see it, but I could barely. I know it was him telling us that everything would be okay. My papa always messed with me, so I wasn't really surprised if he did that after death. One night I was in my nanny's living room at 11 o'clock, waiting for CJ to get home. My nanny was in bed, and I was watching TV. Well, there's a desk close to my nanny's room. That's where my papa used to do bills there when he was alive. I remember before I sat down that the chair was pushed in. A few minutes later, I heard a cracking noise, and I looked over, and the chair was out of place. Of course, I was scared, and it made me forget that it was pushed in. I told Nanny, and she said it was probably your papa. The last time I was at her house before she moved, I just got out of the shower. I was drying my hair, and I heard a name. I don't remember if it was Randy or Rodney, but I asked my granny, and she told me that it was probably someone he knew, so I left it at that. I had used this old phone because mine was dying. Well, we took it home before CJ and her boyfriend Joe could pawn it. This was before a few months before my nanny moved out from up there. CJ and Joe were stealing stuff and pawning it. Well, we had the phone, and one night out of the blue it started ringing, and it said Dad. My mom answered, and nobody was there. Well, the funny thing is, it was dead and shut off. Well, the next time it rang, I was at home, and this time it said Joe, and I answered. Of course, nobody was there. We took the battery out, and my nanny moved, and now no one knows what has happened to Joe or CJ. My dad's father just passed away recently, and I was very close to him. I did everything with him when I was little. I'm even named after his daughter who passed away when she was 3. I was like his daughter, and the one chance he got to know what it felt like to have a little girl again. He passed away December 8th. I was 16, and I miss him dearly. When I was little, they had lived in a trailer. I knew his daughter was there because I could feel her, even though I never saw her. When they moved to that house that is on the hill above the trailer, I could feel something that wasn't good. I still feel it when I go over there. I don't feel Diana, his little girl, or even my papa. The week my papa passed away, my mom asked me to vacuum his room. Well, I started the vacuum, and you know that feeling you get when you know you're not alone, and it feels like someone is going to hurt you. Well, that's how it felt, and I started to panic. I hurried and looked down just for a moment, and then I looked up, and my mom scared the living crap out of me. I left the room and let her finish. To this day, I never go back there, or even go to the bathroom there, because I never want to feel that feeling ever again. I know I am very blessed to have had the chance with them all, and to know that they are watching over me and protecting me, because sometimes, when I'm alone or scared, I can smell their perfume or feel their presences, and I know that I'm not alone, or that I shouldn't be afraid anymore, because they're always going to be with me. I just emailed you a ghost story about my boyfriend's death, and the orbs related to it. If you haven't read it yet, basically I saw orbs of my boyfriend hovering around me every night after midnight. I have no idea why this even happens at this time, but anyway, to continue my story, my friend stayed in her music throughout the night and did not feel welcome to stay in his room. She is familiar with ghosts, and I have not been well since his death. I have grieved so hard I became a threat to myself to the point in which I was thinking of doing the unthinkable. I am just now coming to grips with the situation with my boyfriend. Well, maybe I hold him here, if you know what I mean. I want him to pass through and find some peace so he can go to the light, but I'm not sure what I should do to help. I am so distraught over this. He has visited me and also 4 people I know by dream. He even visited my 5-year-old to tell him he loved him, and that he had to go to heaven now, and his nephew had a dream with some of our memories in it. He told him to take my wife, meaning me, and said God bless you at the end. My friend dreamt of him where he walked through, and said sorry, I don't know why I'm here, and my uncle had a dream with my boyfriend urging him to remind me to let him go, so I could move on. But it is really tough when someone has become a huge part of your life and has played a major role in it for so long, and to have that person vanish before your eyes and be gone is just unconscionable to me. We used to have long talks about mortality, about how one of us couldn't last if one of us were to depart, and it just kills me to know that we can't have just one more conversation, or that we won't be able to live to see my son grow up, get married, and be successful. I swore I was going to marry this man. I did have a dream where someone I believed to be him was trying to walk me through a mist. It's kinda hard to explain, but the dream was foggy and his face was partially obscured by the mist or fog, but the outline of his body was the same as my boyfriend's, and I could make out his hair. He reached out his hand to me without saying a word, and when I did, I awoke, and just like that, he was gone again. I must admit I've been on meds, but still, I felt like it was him. The coroner said that what he did to himself was accidental, but he just took it too far. Maybe he just didn't understand his own limits and did something to himself without thinking. But it's the way that he took care of himself that was too suspicious to be accidental. He told his family that day right before he did it, that he was going to do it and that was final. They didn't come to check on him, and I was gone from the house to come home, and found him the way that he was, lifeless, and just gone. After his death, I would scream for him in that room. It was just so horrific. Please, if anyone can help guide me through this, it would be so helpful to me, as I've been so distraught, and I feel like his soul is so lost. I talked to a psychic medium. She said he came and rubbed my hair at night, and he said to stop the tears and he could come through. But she said he didn't want me to live my life stagnant. I have many lessons to learn, and other things to figure out with the entire loss. We were complete soulmates, but I believe in an afterlife, and I believe that we will reunite one day and live many more lives together, as crazy as it sounds. Since his death, I have now turned to a monk for guidance. I am currently studying Hindu philosophy. My boyfriend believed in God. I've been living in this house for close to 3 years. For the first 6 months, nothing happened. One night, my hubby and I were laying on a spare mattress in the living room watching a movie. This was around 11:50 at night. We started hearing these heavy footsteps in the home. We have 2 doors leading into the living room. One of the sliding doors was right beside us, and the other one is approximately 5 meters away from us. We heard footsteps in the hallway outside the door furthest from us. At first, we thought it was my older brother who was also living with us, but he has this routine where he goes to bed at 10 p.m. and it's the same night every night, and he doesn't change his routine. Weird, I know. We looked at each other thinking, is that Mika walking around in the hall this time of night? We sat there listening to the footsteps that next walked into the kitchen, which has a door that leads into the living room where we were closest to. The footsteps came closer and closer until they stopped just outside the sliding door. We waited. We listened. We were expecting my brother to open the door and have a whinge that our TV sound volume was on far too loud, even though it wasn't. But he's like that, you know. We waited, and then my hubby pushed the sliding door and opened it, and we found nothing. The other door on the far side of the kitchen was also closed, which leads into the hall that the footsteps originated from. We were a bit spooked because we both heard the steps, and laying on the mattress on the floor could sure as heck feel the vibration in the floor from those footsteps. We decided to search the home, minus my brother's bedroom, and we found nothing. An old man lives next door, and I was starting to imagine that perhaps he passed away and wandered over to our home. We saw him a few days later alive and well. That threw that notion out the window. The next morning we asked Miko if he were up last night, and he says no. We told him what we heard, and all he could do was shrug and insist that he was in bed and didn't even come out. I believed him simply because there was no way he could have walked away without us noticing when hubby opened the door, and the footsteps never left. It just stopped outside the door, but nothing was there. One thing that does happen though, is that birds are always hitting our front window. This has happened so many times that I lost count. I'm not sure if this is significant, and whether it's a common occurrence, with houses with weird things happening inside. Another thing that we notice on a few occasions is phantom smells. Sometimes they are really, really pretty, but other times it is foul. They rarely last more than 10 minutes. For a while, things were back to normal, but my brother said one day, I don't know who is always walking past my window or what they want. I asked him who, and he says some kid. He believes it was a girl. Probably no older than 8 or 9. He walks past his window and heads towards the backyard, and he never sees her walk back. This has happened about 4 times that he can recall. I told him, why don't you go out there and check it out? He always has some excuse of he was busy, plays online games, and says he was in the middle of something. Okay, let's continue. About 9 months after hearing the footsteps, we heard them again. We were in the bedroom this time, and it sounded like coming from the laundry and kitchen area. Again, we investigated, checked all the locks on the doors, but everything was secure and fine. I asked my hubby if he believed that the house was haunted. He said that it was a very real possibility. Not too long ago, I was taking a bath around 11 p.m., and I heard a really loud thump just outside my bathroom window. I got out of the tub and wrapped a towel around me and met my hubby in the hallway. He thought I might have fallen, and I told him that it seemed to come from the outside window. We switched on the backyard light that had an outdoor seating area, but the place was clear. We didn't go outside, but we could tell nothing was on the floor that could have made that sound. We went into my son's room to look out the window where the garage and the rest of the yard is, but couldn't see much, save for a few feet from the house because the outdoor lights aren't strong enough, and the trees are too dark and cast many dark shadows. We just put it down to maybe the neighbor was outside doing something, though it was dark, and if that were the case, wouldn't have the light been on? But recently, I got a real shock of my life. About 3 months ago, they put the house on the market, and around this time, I went into my son's room about 7 p.m. to wake him to get him ready for school. It was still quite dark, though the sun was starting to come up, and you could see enough. I pulled his bedroom curtain open and saw what looked like a girl child in the yard, looking directly at the window. That's when she just stood there watching, and then she turned her body and made her way towards the back of the garage. She kept looking my way for a few seconds before looking away and disappearing behind the garage. I didn't know what to think, to be honest. What would she be doing out there at that time of the morning, wearing inappropriate clothing for that time of morning? I'm not even sure if she was solid or not. I was just thinking, who are you, and why are you in my yard? I think she wore a light blue dress. It could have been white. I didn't have too much light, but it almost seemed like she had a bit of a glow. I could even tell that she seemed to have long blonde hair. By now, my brother and my hubby had left for work, and I was alone in the home with my son, and there was no way I was going to go into the yard to investigate. What if she wasn't a little girl? Can a little girl create such heavy footsteps? She is always spotted outside, yet the footsteps are inside. Or is that something else inside? Is she trying to warn me? I've seen shadows here and there, and many things have been breaking down recently. Since the home was put on the market, our little portable oven broke down. Our microwave is breaking down. My washing machine isn't working well anymore, and it won't do the final spin cycle. The hot water mysteriously stopped working as well, and the landlord came by to fix it, and says he doesn't even see anything really wrong with it. The hot water started working again. The toilet was blocked up with the root of a tree, but why now? The kitchen faucet broke and fell off. Our video player stopped working. It chewed up a tape and had to throw it out. Birds continue occasionally flying into our front window. Always that same window. It happened on the day of the house auction too. And it's not just these, but also illnesses. My son was choking on food the other day and needed an ambulance. Since living here, my hubby has needed 2 surgeries, one being spinal. And he's always been strong. And then he spent a year out of work with a bad back. He developed diabetes while living here, though a test a year ago said he was fine. I also developed problems. Locked-in ovarian syndrome, an umbilical hernia, requiring surgery in near future, and high blood pressure that recently got even higher, ankle swelling that can't really be explained, chest infections that occur frequently, and a few others. Before living here, we were fit and healthy, and it's like being here is making us sick. And it could be a coincidence, but you can't help to think about these things. I've read that there is a house somewhere in Europe, I think, and that people that move in there die of a heart attack within 2 weeks of living there. I don't know if it was in Switzerland, but the thing is, even those had no history of being ill. They say the house is cursed. And who knows if this is why we're getting these issues. We are moving out in a couple of weeks, and we are counting the days. I feel more like a 7-year-old these days than a 36-year-old. And all these changes have happened in the past 3 years of living here anyway. But this is my story. I have a confession to make. I'm not an ordinary person. I don't mean that I've exhibited quirky behavior in the past and I'm simply unorthodox, but I have this uncanny ability to sense things. Whether these energies that I've learned to embrace are malevolent or benevolent, I can't say, as I'm unable to clearly make the distinction, but I tend to attract unusual energies, which permeate all around me. If you happen to come in close contact with me, you may be susceptible to these energies as well. I could say that there's a supernatural component to this, but because my mind has relentlessly wreaked havoc on me, I can't say for certain what is going on. Sometimes I see things, shadows, hearing strange noises, knocks on the walls, a faint whisper in my ear, reinforcing the idea that something otherworldly resides inside these walls. All the while I'm sitting in the kitchen of my old Victorian home, and I'm the only one who lives here. I can honestly say that I don't know what is happening, but I have nowhere else to turn to. There's the cellar that I'm terrified to go into. I've literally haven't stepped foot down there since I moved in. But it's like I can telepathically hear the growls and moans coming from that dark space that I refuse to enter. I've always wanted to know if the source of all these energies came from that cellar. The thing is, I've no pets, no estranged relationships. Nobody ever sets foot in my home. I had a wife once, but she's been gone for what seems like a millennium. I don't remember what it's like to interact with anybody. I'm virtually imprisoned. I work from home. So, I became a recluse. I don't go out much these days, for fear of inadvertently transferring these energies to those who come in contact with me. Isolation is unconscionable. The fear of going insane inside my mind constantly lingers in the foreground. The helplessness of not being able to do anything about it still traps me internally. I'm mentally paralyzed. And then I have these unusual nightmares. My doctor tells me they are night terrors. So I'm laying in my bed, and the shadow opens the door. It doesn't do anything, but simply stands in the doorframe. I don't know what it wants, but I can only make out its eyes, glowing brighter than the sun. The rest the outline, a silhouette. I sweat. My body temperature drops, and I feel a cold breath on the right side of my shoulder. I look over, temporarily taking my eyes off the shadow figure, and yet there's nothing there but a mist that looks as if someone is breathing in the cold air. I look back at the doorframe, and the shadow is gone. I then lay down, staring at the ceiling. I simply just can't ignore what's going on. I want to, but even the pills don't do enough. I still see these things, hear these things, and most importantly, feel these things. I'm so scared. I don't want to be a prisoner anymore. I want a release. I want it all to end. I'm sick and tired of the suffering. My mind just won't heal. I don't want to feel. It's almost better if I don't, but I can't turn it off. Still, these images persist. In another moment, I can clearly see this elderly woman silently screaming at me. I can feel the terrible darkness emitting from her, and when she opens her mouth, there is nothing but darkness, almost as if it is a black hole. No sound, just a mouth opening. The woman with her old tattered clothing, not from this time period, definitely not present, Victorian times, with a black dress from that era, long black hair, matted and uncombed. This being was just standing there. I ask it what it wants from me, but it remains silently screaming for a few seconds. I blink my eyes as hard as anybody could. The figure simply won't disappear. I see a single cockroach move out of her mouth. I had to have dreamt this. This night terror felt so real. It consumes me. I can't get it out of my head. I go back and forth thinking this has got to just be a hallucination.
But the more I think about these events, the way they truly never disappear, it makes me believe there is an entity in this house that I can't ignore. They are communicating to me through my dreams and through some of my hallucinations that I've had as well. The therapists, the doctors, they all tell me that I've got some psychosis. Trauma from my youth remains unsolved. These walls inside this old home has so much history engraved into it. Tell me that spirits don't exist, and I can't prove it to you. I can only tell you about my experiences and how sensitive I am to the other side. That I think to myself, why are we so arrogant about this other side? Why do we dismiss what we do not understand? Maybe I'm just crazy. Or maybe the world wants to shield us from the fact that these beings live among us. If you truly open up your eyes and begin to understand that there's nothing that the world can't see, then you can believe.
Okay, please stop right there and give me a like, a subscribe, and a comment and a share. Like right now, give me a subscribe, give me a like, and share if you haven't already shared. If you're just coming across this video, please, I try to upload very long content and new content. And it's July, and it's almost August, it's 2023, and I figure you guys will like that. So please, if you guys could please help out a brother, I don't know why I'm saying that, but please, if you could please do that, I'd really appreciate it. You know, so the views go up, helps the algorithm, and it really makes me compete in the algorithm with other videos, and everybody else will be happy if they see long form content like this, and I feel like you guys would all like it. Okay, that's a long-winded hi, and I really hope if you participate in the comments and like the video and share it, then we can create the greatest channel in the world. I don't know. I feel like just saying that. But guys, really appreciate your subscribership. Please take the time to do it, please. I kind of have to beg because I have no other opportunities to beg other than the end of the video where, you know, it's kind of like dependent on your guys' you know, engagement for me to succeed on this platform, because otherwise, if you don't like the video, it's not going to get any views. And I want it to be more than a view. You guys are, you know, a population that's actually thriving on my channel, if that makes any sense. And I want you guys to exist on this channel, and you guys are more than just a person. You are a part of an extension of this channel. So any ideas, any suggestions you have at the bottom of the video, please don't hesitate to make suggestions. I'm very transparent about that. You know, I always let people know what's going on in terms of like how I'm feeling at the moment. So please, I'd really appreciate it. I can't even talk, and I'm not editing anything out. But if you guys like the rambling at the end of these really long-winded videos, I'm going to have shorter videos too. Not getting rid of these ones. Longer and shorter. Anyway, guys, love you, and see you in the next video.